Good evening, students. Today we are starting with the second chapter of geography, that is transport. It's the most basic and the most easiest chapter of geography. Today I'll give you the rough idea first regarding the format of the paper in the boards. It's 80 marks written paper. 10 marks will be for India map marking. 20 marks will be the topography. And 50 marks will be theoretical section, in which y'all will have 8 questions. Sorry, 8 not 9 questions y'all will get, and out of that 9 y'all have to attempt any 5. I repeat, y'all will be getting 9 questions. Out of that y'all have to attempt any 5. So out of this 9 chapters in geography, we will be doing around 8 chapters, 7 to 8 chapters, and you'll have to attempt any 5 in the boards. This in the last chapter we had studied water. The last lecture we had studied water. That water is the one question. Definitely it comes for 10 marks. Next is transport. This alone transport will come for 10 marks. Okay. Water and transport you all have to attend. You all cannot keep this chapter as an option, because transport is the most basic chapter of the whole textbook, because you all just have the advantage and disadvantage of roadways, waterways and airways, which you all have been studying from so many years. So transport you all don't have to skip, because the other chapters, which are the waste management, the climate is the most difficult chapter. Okay, so since this is the questions also in the boards are easy of this chapter, so you all don't have to skip this one. So let's start. What is the importance of transport system? Transport system is like the arteries and the veins in the human body. Like arteries carry blood from the heart to the other parts of the body, and the veins are the blood vessels that bring back blood to the heart. So what is the function of the arteries and veins? That they take the oxygenated and they take the deoxygenated blood and the oxygenated. So the whole concept of movement of blood in the body is done by the arteries and veins. In same way, throughout India, the movement of goods from the production place to the market is done by the transport system, and hence they have been given this term as arteries and veins. Let's read this. It helps in connecting one part of the country with the another, and it also helps for the movement of raw materials, fuel and machinery. It brings back to the points of production and finished goods to the point of marketing and consumption. What they have told, they help in the movement of raw materials to the point of production where the goods have been made. See, first point is from movement of raw materials to the place of production where the goods have been made, and when the goods have been made, it is when the goods have been finished, it is transferred from the production place to the point of marketing and consumption where the ultimate consumer is there the goods have been transferred. So the two lines were, first the raw materials are transported to the production place, then from when the production is converted into finished goods, the goods are made, it will be transferred to the place of consumption. So in this way it has been told as arteries and veins. So what is the importance? Definitely it is helping the process of industrialization, because industries are growing because of the production. So hence the raw materials which we had discussed over here is totally taken on by the transport system. Second, the scarcity of goods during any crisis has been removed by transport. For example, a certain section of the society, a certain area of the society is lacking goods, or there is a shortage of goods over there, so we can transfer the goods from one place to another. So the scarcity, that is where there is scarce, where something is easily not available, it's less in supply, is known as scarcity. So where at that place we can transport the goods through transport. It helps in minimizing the effect of natural disaster. Easy, in the place of disaster, all the facilities, all the food supplies and all the various facilities have been transported through the transport system in India. So these are the three basic points, that industries in India is totally depend upon the transport system, because when the goods have been made, it has been transported The finished goods have been transported to the place of consumption only through transport system. Second, where there's scarcity of goods, means they're limited in supply. So at that place also transportation plays an important place. Why scarcity of goods is a problem? See, if the goods are scarce, then the demand increases, and when demand increases, price also increases. So this is a major point that the government should look after this point, that the goods in any area of India, there should not be a problem of scarcity, because if there's a scarcity, the prices will increase and people will have to face lots of hardship. And third, wherever there's a natural disaster, it helps to minimize the effects by providing all the facilities within the given time framework. Okay, so these are three importance of the transport. So coming on to the next page, we have in India we have three major types of roads. That is, first is the national highway, second is the state highways, and third is the district roads. See, for example, you can see this map of India. The roads which connect the major cities of India. For example, if I am going from Ahmedabad, from Mumbai to Ahmedabad, or Mumbai to Jaipur, I can see Jaipur over here. So the roads which connects the major cities of India, that is known as the national highway. Okay, so this will be the road which goes to Udaipur and then to Ajmer. So that which connects the major cities is called as the national highway. For example, but then from Udaipur I have to go to the Rishabh Dev. The roads which connects the intercities, that Udaipur is a big city and which connects the smaller town, that is known as the state highways. And then from Rishabh Dev, for example, I have to go to somewhere from Rishabh Dev to Kherwara, to the smallest of these districts or villages, that will come under the district roads. Okay, so these are basically the three types of road. I'll repeat once again. That which connects the major cities, we had discussed from Maharashtra to Ahmedabad and then Ahmedabad to Jaipur, that comes under the national highway. And when from Udaipur you have to connect to the intercity which is nearer to the main city, that comes under the state highways. And from Rishabh Dev you have to go to a smaller village, for example the Kherwara, that comes under the district roads. Okay, so these are the three types of roads which comes under India. So first, the main road are constructed and maintained by the central government. It's a 1 mark question, that who manages the national road. It is done by the central government. These are the main highways running through the length and the breadth of the country, connecting major ports, the state capitals. Basically it is connecting the state capitals, that is Mumbai in the Maharashtra. So in such a way, large industrial sectors and tourist centers, they facilitate the interstate transport and movement of defense personnel and materials in strategic areas. Strategic means important areas. When there's a movement of defense things or the materials in the important areas, the national highways are being used. So the main purpose is that they connect all the important cities of the India, which is the most important. Next is the National Highway Authority of India was constituted in 1988, and it is responsible for the development, maintenance and management of the national highways. Now there are two major projects which have been taken up by the NHAI. NHAI is the National Highway Authorities of India, which basically looks after the national highways. So first is a golden quadrilateral. You can see on the image of the map of India that there's a road which joins the four major cities of India, that is the Mumbai, New Delhi, Kolkata and Chennai. So the single road which connects this four city is known as the golden quadrilateral. Okay. A golden quadrilateral is the largest express highway project in India which connects the four largest cities of India, that is the Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata and Chennai. The area is 5,846 kilometers, which is a 4 or a 6 lane express highway. Now what are 4 lane express highways? See, this is a 4-way express highway where at a time 2 on this side, 2 on this side. So this is the first lane, second lane, third and fourth. So in this way this is the 4 lane, and also there are 6 lanes in this golden quadrilateral. So there are 4 and 6 lane express highway been built. So what are basically the features? That it interconnects all the major cities, as you all know, the Mumbai, Delhi, Kolkata and Chennai. It provides an impetus. Impetus basically encourages and helps the truck transport throughout the India. It provides the vast opportunities for transport of agricultural produce from the hinterland to the major cities and ports for the export. What is hinterland? Hinterland are the places which are away from the sea. For example, on this map, see, example Aurangabad is a hinterland because maybe it is away from the sea or a sea. So those are the hinterlands. So what is the function of this golden quadrilateral? It provides vast opportunities for transport of agricultural produce from the hinterland to the ports. Where there are ports, the goods can be transported to the ports through the golden quadrilateral. Okay. Next is the north, south, east, west corridor. Now this is second type of major road. That is, this is the north, this is the south. The road which connects from Srinagar, you can see in the green line, from Srinagar up till the Kanyakumari. This is known as the north-south corridor. That is, the road connects the major cities of the north and the south. And from west, it starts from Porbandar up till the Silchar in the east. So this is the north, south, east, west corridor. These are the roads which runs from north to south and east to west. It is the largest ongoing highway project in India, which is about 7,142 kilometers. And this is the 4-6 lane expressway connecting Srinagar, you all can see this in the map, Srinagar, Kanyakumari, Porbandar and the Silchar. Okay. Next is the expressway. Express highways. These highways are cemented 6-lane roads designed to provide smooth high-speed movement without any on-road obstacle like traffic or the speed breakers. This is the same way which connects the major cities in a certain state. For example, in Maharashtra, Pune, Nagpur, these are the major cities which so the roads which connects these major cities is the express highway. You don't have to do this Yamuna Expressway. Next are the state highways. What are state highways? They are constructed and maintained by the state government. These highways provide linkage. It's linked with the national highways. I had explained you earlier also that if you are going from Gujarat or from Mumbai to Udaipur, that is a national highway. But the road which is attached to the national highway will be called as the state highways. Okay, so they are linked with the national highways, district headquarters and important towns. Next is the district roads. Now roads basically which are attached to the state highways are the district roads. They are roads within a district connecting areas of production with markets. They connect small towns. Now these were connected with the large towns, and these are connected to the small towns with one another with the state highways. See, they are connected with the state highways, so they are known as the district roads. It also connects the taluka headquarters. Next is the border roads. Now what are border roads? See, on the map of India, you can see this black line on this. All these roads are been maintained by a special organization known as the Border Road Organization. Why? Because these are the places of strategic importance. Since these places are attached with the other countries' boundaries, so considering the war point of view, safety point of view, these roads are being maintained by an independent organization, that is the Border Road Organization, so as to ensure safety of India. So these black color lines have been maintained by this Border Road Organization. Was set up in 1960 for strengthening the defense preparedness. So the complete focus of this organization are the border roads, so that there is during the time of war-like situation, it is helpful and it brings about the easy transport of army equipments and troops. And also considering the security of our country, they are having a close look on these boundaries of our country, not allowing any terrorists to come inside our country. So basically maintaining and looking after the roads and helping in the defense system of our country, border roads plays an important role. They also undertake the snow clearance in the high altitude areas and construction of airfields, buildings and permanent bridges. For example, this road to the Rohtang Pass, also during winter it is completely covered with snow, so to remove, it's also a work of the Border Road Organization. So now we'll be starting with the very basic answers, that what are the advantages and disadvantages of the roadways, roadways, airways and the railways. So let's start. Advantages of roadway. It is through the roads that every village and hamlet can be reached. What do you mean by hamlet? A very small village is known as a hamlet. So since roadways are connected in almost each and every part of our country, so through roadways we can reach to all the places in our India. So this is the most basic advantage of the roadways and the most important advantage. Second, construction of cost of road is much lower than that of railway lines. So the construction cost is also less. Third, roads can be constructed even in the areas of difficult terrain where railway lines do not exist. Terrain basically means the rocky land where railway lines do not exist. It offers door-to-door services and thereby reducing the cost of loading and unloading. Now basically the type of question which has been asked in boards is that how are the roadways advantages in comparison to railways. So they'll ask in the comparison form. So the selection of point will be very crucial, that this will be taken as a point that construction of cost of roads is definitely less in comparison to the railways, and also the railways cannot be built on the heavy mountainous region or the difficult terrain, so where roads can be easily built. So therefore it is also acting as advantage in comparison to railways. Also roads offer door-to-door services, which is not possible in case of railways. So in this way you all have to learn your answers, that the questions can be twisted and asked to you all. Okay, so we have completed the first answer. That first was that we can connect each and every town. The construction cost is low of roadways in comparison to railways. Roadways can be built on the mountainous regions. They offer door-to-door services, which is not possible in railways. Okay, but there are some disadvantages also. First, many roads are unsurfaced. Unsurfaced means they are not properly cemented and therefore not suitable for regular vehicle traffic. As you all know, the roads of India are in a bad conditions. They are not properly been surfaced. Second is roads are not properly maintained. Poor road surface cause heavy loss in wear and tear of the vehicles. Third, there are multiple checkposts, toll tax, octroi duties, collection points on the roads, which bring down the speed of the traffic. So overall point is that the roads are basically time consuming, as it brings down the speed of the vehicle. So the first is the roads are unsurfaced, and since the roads are unsurfaced, it is leading to the wear and tear of the vehicles. Third, also the speed, it's time consuming because of the toll tax and many other things. Okay, so next coming on to the railways. The suburban trains that handle the commuter traffic are almost the electric multiple units. What are the electric multiple units? The basic local trains are known as the EMUs, okay, the electric multiple units. They usually have 9 coaches or sometimes 12 to handle the rush hour traffic. As you all know, the local trains of Mumbai are basically 9 coaches to 12 coaches, and hence they are also known as the EMUs. And they are the suburban trains, okay, which connects only the places within a city. Now next, the question will be, railways help in accelerating the development of industry and agriculture? Yes, definitely, because they carry the huge variety of goods. This is the first point. And ranging from so many things, they carry so many things, that is the fertilizers, petrochemicals, agricultural produce, iron and steel. So these are the major things which the railways carry from one place to another. Next concept is the gauge. What is basically a gauge? The distance between the rail is known as a gauge. See, the distance on the lines is known as a gauge. So there are 3 types of gauge. This is the broader gauge, which is 1.676 meter. Basically, all the railway lines in the country runs on the broader gauge. See, around 85% of the total length of the rail route in the country is the broad gauge, on which all the railways run. Broad gauge system links all the major ports of India. The broad gauge railway line on the west coastal lowland, known as the Konkan railway line, is the engineering marvel of the Indian railways. Why it is the engineering marvel? See, Konkan railway line starts with, there's a Roha over here around somewhere, Roha. So from Roha, there's a railway line up till the Mangalore. So this railway line is said to be the engineering marvel. That is, you can say marvel basically means wonderful. Marvel means wonderful, because see, this railway line passes through lots of waterfalls, because there's a Goa over here where there are lots of waterfalls, there are greeneries over here, there are high mountains. Even through these barriers, a railway line has been constructed. So therefore, the long rail route connecting from Roha in Maharashtra to Mangalore in Karnataka is said to be the engineering marvel. Okay, that is a wonder, because it has so many barriers. Then too, a railway line has been passed from Roha to Mangalore, and that railway line has a broad gauge. That is, they have a railway line which has a difference gap of 1.676 meter. Next is the meter gauge and the narrow gauge. The meter gauge is a distance of about 11.22%, and narrow gauge has a distance of 0.762%. Narrow gauge and meter gauge are basically for the toy trains which are running on the hilly slopes. So the distance between the railway track is less. Okay. Next, what are the advantages of railways? It helps in the easy movement of the bulky goods and perishable commodities to a distant place. Bulky means heavy goods. Heavy goods can be easily transported from one place to another, and the perishable goods which gets perished, for example fruits, vegetables. So within a day, the long distance can be connected in a fast period of time, and the perishable commodities can be used to deliver at a certain place. So first point of railway is that all the goods can be easily transferred and can be transferred in a short period of span, so that the perishable goods doesn't get perished, otherwise they will not be able to use. Second is, railway provide comfortable journey. Definitely, because the compartments of the Indian railways are broader in size, so we can move easily from one place to another in the railways. So it's a comfortable journey, whereas in case of roadway it is not possible. We have to sit at one place only. Railways provide comfortable journey, as the trains have enough space to stretch legs and move in the corridors. At night one can even sleep comfortably on the berths provided in the trains. Also, railways travel is safer and comfortable for the families with babies and elders. See, in India, the rail accidents are almost nil in comparison to the roadways, where there are thousands of road accidents, but railway we get 1 or 2 cases in a year. So it's a safer mode. So we have completed the advantages, that is, it is safer, it is more comfortable, and the first one was that it allows quick movement of goods and services, basically of the perishable goods. So all these 3 points can be used when they ask why is railway more comfortable in case of roadways. Definitely roadways, the speed is less because they have toll tax and many things. The railways are comfortable because they have enough space, but roadways in the cars and buses, the space is limited. The railway is good because it is safer and there are more accidents in the roadways. So you can compare both the answers. Okay. Next, the disadvantages of railways. It lacks flexibility of routes. We had studied that in roadways, roadways provide door-to-door services. All the places in a country can be reached through the roadways, but railways lacks flexibilities. Second, trains travel can be very long and tedious, especially when compared to air travel. Now this point can be used in comparison to the airways, that the time taken by the trains are generally more in comparison to the airways. And third, trains cannot cross the ocean. This also point is compared with the air travel, that through airways we can move from one continent to the other continent, but in case of railways it's not possible. So it's disadvantages in comparison to the airways. Trains cannot cross the oceans. They are limited to land travel and cannot normally haul products from one continent to another because of the large oceans. So that is a disadvantage. Now let's move on to the air transport. The air transport in India was managed by the two corporations, that is Air India and the Indian Airlines, and these both companies merged in the year 2007, and now it is called as Air India. So the whole for providing safe and efficient air traffic services, the whole responsibility is under the Air India. Next is the Pavan Hans. What is a Pavan Hans? It is a helicopter service. Okay. See, this is the Pavan Hans helicopter services. It is used basically for two reasons. For example, if in the oil industry it has been used where the ships are away from the land, so the laborers have been transported in a faster services from land to the ships in the middle of the oceans. Okay, I repeat, this is land and the ships are in the middle of the ocean where there is an oil industry over here. So to transport the laborers from the coast to the ship is done by the helicopter service, that is the Pavan Hans. And also it is used in the tourism sector. In example, in the Vaishno Devi also it has been used, where the people have been taken away from the where the temples are situated on the mountain ranges. So basically in the two sectors the Pavan Hans has been used. Let's read this. It is established in 1985 with the prime objective of providing helicopter services to the oil sector in offshore exploration. What is offshore exploration? That I was mentioning over here, that this is land and away from the shore, away from the land where there is a oil industry. So to transport the laborers, this has been used. Operate in the hilly and the inaccessible areas and make available charter flights for promotion of tourism. In case of tourism, where the temples are on the hilly areas, so they have been transported through the Pavan Hans. Okay. So next, what are the advantages of airways? Very easy. It is the fastest means of transport in comparison to the railways and the roadways. Second, that it can cross mountain barriers, which we had read over here, that this is the demerit of the rail transport, that it cannot cross the continent. But in case of airways, there are no mountain barriers and you can reach any place from one continent to another continent. Third is air transport is of particular importance during the natural calamities, that when the area which has been affected, to provide resources over there. So due to air transport, easily all the resources can be transported, the food, the medicines and everything can be made available to these areas through the airways. So these are the three advantages. First, fastest, no mountain barriers, and during natural calamities it can be used. What are disadvantages? Very costly in comparison to the roadway and the railways. Second, it depends upon the weather condition, and during the heavy storms the airways is not possible. So this act as a disadvantages. At first, costly. Second, due to the weather condition during the stormy rainfall it is not possible. Third, air transport is run on petroleum, which is a non-renewable source of energy, so it will one day deplete the petroleum, so it becomes a disadvantage. Next is the inland water transport. Now next in water transport, first is inland waterways. What is inland waterways? See, for example, this is a map of India. There are so many rivers, okay, over here. When there's movement of ship within India, it will be called as a inland waterways. Okay, for example, a person going from Kolkata to Delhi through waterways, that will be called as an inland waterway, and a person going from India to the other continent, that will be called as a oceanic waterway. Okay, so the inland waterways are the waterways where the ships use the rivers, canals to transport goods from one place to another. When the ship is traveling within the country, taking the rivers which are inside the country, that is the inland waterways. So inland waterways include the rivers and the canals. Okay, rivers of peninsular India are not ideal for navigation. Why? Because these rivers are seasonal, as they are rain fed. Which is the peninsular India? This is the peninsular India. Okay, so the rivers of peninsular India is not ideal for the ship navigation. Why so? So there are two reasons. First, they have said that it is basically the rain fed, and it is not snow fed. Okay, whereas in the Himalayas the Ganga is a snow fed river where the snow melts, and there's the rivers are perennial throughout the year. But in case of the peninsular rivers, they are rain fed. So during the dry seasons of December or April or May, the rivers are not navigable because the water level is low, and which does not allow the ship to travel from one place to another over here. So the first point is, the rivers are seasonal because they are rain fed and they are not snow fed. Second, the rivers are marked by number of waterfalls, so it makes them difficult to navigate. So this answer was regarding the peninsular India. Now we'll be talking about the North India. That river Ganga is navigable from its mouth right up to the Allahabad. See, if I talk about the river Ganga starts somewhere from here and it goes. So this is the mouth of the river Ganga, and Allahabad is over here. Okay. So what is the question? That the river Ganga is navigable from its mouth right up to the Allahabad. What are two reasons? That the navigation of ships is easy over here and there is no obstruction, because the Ganga is a perennial river fed by the monsoon rains in the rainy season and melting of the snow. They are snow fed on the lofty mountains during the dry season. So throughout the year the Ganga is perennial. They are getting water. Half of the year they are getting water due to the rainy season, and next half of the remaining 6 months they are getting water by the melting of the snow. Next point is, the slope of the Ganga is gradual and the riverbed is free from stones and silt. The slope is not steep and it is basically like gradual. Okay, it's gradually coming down, so it's not difficult for the ships to navigate. So we have completed 2 points over here also, that there is a water throughout the year and the slope is gentle, that is gradual also, And here we were talking that the rivers of peninsula are not ideal for navigation because they are seasonal rivers, and also there are many waterfalls over there. Next, what is the difference between a port and a harbor? See, only the difference is, see, basically where the ships have been parked, that is a port or a harbor. When the port is a man-made, we have constructed to the fullest, that is a port. But a natural thing is a harbor where there is no man-made construction and it is been provided to us naturally. See, there was a land over here earlier and there's no construction been taken place. So this is a harbor. But here the construction has been taken place all over, and this is called as a port. So ports are basically the man-made commercial places which we have built. Harbors are natural. Naturally, a large body of land with a large piece of land with connectivity of a large water body, it becomes a harbor. That it was a natural thing, but in this we have made this, so it becomes a port and this is a harbor. So first point, it is man-made, it is natural. Second is, the location of the port is chosen along the coastline where water is navigable. If the water is up to a certain height, then only the place will be selected for the port. For example, the ship should be able to park over here. It should act as a possibility for unloading and loading of the goods. For that, ship should come near to the land over here, so the water should be up to a great height for unloading and loading the cargoes. So the overall point is that to construct a port, the water should be at a great height so that the ships could be parked over here and there can be a process of loading and unloading. In case of harbor, we haven't made anything, so it's a natural harbor which is land on most side but have an entrance point to the sea. Basically, it is surrounded by land but it has an entrance to the sea. As you can see, there's a land over here and there's an entrance over here which is connected to the land through sea. Second point is, we choose the location of a place of the port where the water is at a great height and it is navigable, but harbor is natural, which is surrounded by land and it has a one entrance point to the sea. The main purpose of the port is loading and unloading, and harbor is safe parking of the ships. That means only that same, that is anchorage, safe parking of the ships. It is a very important answer. Distinguish between port and harbor for 3 marks. Next page, these are the major ports in which you have to learn all this. Which are the major ports? That is Kolkata, Visakhapatnam, Chennai, Mumbai, Jawaharlal, Kochi and North. So you all just have to learn that where it is situated and which all materials they transport. Okay, you just have to read this and learn also. Okay, they might ask that what is the function of Kochi port. So you have to say that it handles the export of tea, coffee, spices and imports of petroleum, oil and fertilizer. So these are all the basic things you'll have to learn. For example, Chennai unloads the crude oil, fertilizer, iron and dry cargo. Now last two answers. What are the advantage and disadvantage of waterways? Advantages: it is the cheapest mode of transport in comparison to road and the railways. It is most suitable for carrying the heavy and the bulky material. It is fuel efficient and eco-friendly mode of transport. Why? It doesn't pollute the environment, okay, as no oil or anything has been required which generates pollution. Also, all the heavy materials can be transported and it is the cheapest mean of transport. Disadvantages: it depends upon the weather conditions. In stormy weather, it is not possible to travel through waterways. Second, it needs long traveling hours which causes seasickness. Seasickness means the vomiting. Some people have the problem of vomiting while traveling in the sea. They have a headache, so that is a seasickness. So that is a disadvantage of waterways. And third, water transport is limited to the areas where rivers are navigable. It should be up to a great height, then only it is possible. Otherwise, it is not possible in those places. So what are the 3 advantages? It's cheap, heavy goods can be carried, no pollution. Disadvantages, it totally depends upon the weather condition, so it's difficult. Seasickness, and also the water should be navigable, then only the waterways is possible. Okay, so we have completed this chapter. Thank you.